Alright, I was not going to videotape this because there are plenty of YouTube videos about taking this apart. Most of them said you could just lower the pan. I guess you could and get this bolt out, but I could not get mine to flex down enough to release this because it has to move down that much off of there to get that off of that piece. And this doesn't have any real, when that's on that cam, you can't move it still. It moves now because it came off the cam. See, once it's on there, well, I guess it moves. Just acting like it didn't want to move for me at all off that thing. Anyhow, I'm going to start putting it back together. It took 8 hours to get to this point. So basically, I still got to pull this off, take that off, slide this off, put the new one on. I don't know if I have. Okay, this is an 05 Silverado, and the water pump went out, and I thought it would be best to do the timing chain and the oil pump because it has 130,000 miles on it. Figured I might as well just go do it. So the problem was this pipe, the fuel suction line that's attached to this, it has a bolt attached to this pump to hold it. And everything on YouTube said just take that bolt out, but that is not possible because this is not flexible. It has a bolt there and a bolt there. It makes it rigid. So you can't flex that pipe down because it's bolted there and there. It will not move. So looks like I took out extra bolt or two. Alright, this is my setup for the lower sprocket removal. I tried to put a fat washer in there, but it's too wide, so the pulley won't pull. I have this little thing, I tried this and it just pushed that out. So now I've decided to try to sacrifice a wrench handle and just pull on that and try to tighten that up. So let's see if that'll work. Alright, that's what the pan looked like when I'm done with it. Cleaned it off, took these bolts off. It all looked like that. It was nasty. Cleaned the timing chain cover case, took the gasket out, got the new Velcro gasket. I got to tighten up the 3 bolts. That's what that looks like. These are probably over tightened. Chain, a little bit of slack in it, about like the old one. Hopefully this one doesn't have a tensioner. It came with a tensioner in the box, but this don't have no side tensioner and it don't have no middle tensioner. So basically it just had the tight chain on it, so it's like old school. So hopefully that's all good. I'm a little bit worried about the O-ring in there because if that don't work, then I have to drop the pan again and fix the O-ring. So hopefully it will have oil pressure. So I'm going to go under there and tighten the bolts. All right, something as simple as a crankcase seal. This is the factory one. Style of it's kind of like a traditional. This is the Engine Tech one, which I've kind of beveled out, but that was almost flat, so it's kind of taking shape. But I've noticed that it would probably be fine, but it really doesn't want to go past that first lip right there without really forcing it on there. Whereas this one, the Duralast one, kind of starts better on there, but it will seal more the traditional shape. But the thing that was weird about the Duralast, I could literally push it on with my thumb, whereas this one I actually had to hammer it with a hammer to drive it in there flush. So I'm worried about this one slipping inside of there. I'm definitely going to oil that up real good, clean this surface up with some steel wool. I'm worried about that spinning in there. So right now I got the Duralast one in there, but if I had to do it over, I would have ordered a GM one to go in there off of Rock Auto. So I saw the National one, didn't like it. So hopefully, you know, the factory one would look more like this. Got the right shape to it, and you know, actually made for the engine. Well, anyway, what a pain. Okay, I got all these bolts done. I put the wiring harness back across the bottom. I got all the pan done. I got the 5 quarts of oil in it. I did a new filter, all the pan bolts, transmission bolt in the back, all the bolts for the pan, but I have not put the cross member or all that because I wanted to make sure that it had oil pressure. So basically I still have all the belts, everything off, but most important thing was made sure it had oil pressure. Engine lights coming on because it's not recognizing all that stuff, but most important thing, make sure you have oil pressure before you put it all back. Well, this is the new water pump. I did actually get a name brand. It did not come with this piece. I had to order it separate. Could have used the old one by just taking it off. Did not come with the thermostat, so I kind of piecemealed it. I was worried about getting a better thermostat. I have the 180-degree thermostat. I drilled those breather holes in it, and this gasket lines up on that notch, which I'm surprised. And you kind of had to, they had these little tabs, you had to push them down in there with your fingernail, get them to seat down in there. That creates a ridge. Now, I'm not liking how the paper sits on partial of the gasket. I was kind of thinking I'd rather have that not touching the gasket at all. But I'm going to do the AC at the same time, because right now I have room to get to it. With all that stuff on there, I felt like I couldn't really get to it very good. So I may wait. I may go ahead and put this on there and assemble that, and then I may stop because I'm waiting for the compressor to come in. I could go ahead and put this on there, the bottom piece. So a bunch more things I could do. Okay, I'm laying from the bottom, and basically this nut here wasn't there, and I just beat on this center randomly in circles, just enough to get that thread to bite. A couple threads, 2 turns. So now I'm able to turn that thing. So I'm gonna have to get something to hold that now. I've seen one dude use a chain, one person used the vice grip. The vice grip seems to work to hold it. So you can grab the vice grip here, and I'll set that on there so you can see it. Alright, these are the AC harness, and this Denso came with a different harness than this one. The aftermarket had the clips on here. The Denso has the clips here. So the problem is you can pull these out, but I didn't know how to get them out. So just for simplicity of working on it, I just cut it off because I was thinking about cutting the other one off, but I was able to figure out how to get these off. Basically, when you look down in there, those little black pieces is what that piece right there connects to. So basically, if you take a screwdriver, let me pause. Okay, so in order to make this work, you have to press that in, and that's what allows us to lock when you put it back together. It can only go in there one way. So now it's locked in there. So in order to release that, now you have to go the opposite way. You have to stick your tiny screwdriver in there and press down in there and pull that out. Releasing it is kind of hard to do. There you go. So now to get it to go back in there, you have to press that little tab again, because you've pressed the tab the opposite direction. That tab has to be pushed back in there. So what a pain, but the only reason I cut it is because I was afraid I was gonna have to splice it, but that's a better way. Just pull it out the back, switch this whole thing. Now my problem is I wrote black, a B on here, but I don't think I wired it right, so mine's not working, so I got to go back in here. Now what's a pain is I put all these hoses and stuff back. Now I'm gonna have to work in here. So once I get that disconnected, I'll have a little more room, but what a pain, right? That's why I was working on that with all those hoses removed. Make it a lot easier. Now I'm looking here at my wiring, and I see that the green is there and the black is there. Now when I'm looking down in here, because this thing is not working, I'm pretty certain, can't see that on here, but I'm pretty certain that the black is where the green one is. So these, even though I wired it like I thought color code wise, because this has a white and a black, but my black one is where the green one is, so I need to switch them, see if that fixes the problem. I have worked in this very tight location, uncomfortable. I gotta put all these little pieces back together, but I watched a couple other videos about jumping this clutch, which is 30 and 87. And I can hear it and see it moving. I can hear it, see it. So now that clutch is really activating. So that's 30 and 87 on the box. Just jump across there. Fuse. I don't know why it's not triggering on the switches. I mean, it is 50 degrees outside. That shouldn't have anything to do with it, because when you turn your defrost on, it should work. All right, I didn't really want this to be about AC, but it's all part of me doing this. I got the switch back in there. It's so cold out. That thing, when it cycles, it only cycles for a few minutes. So it is cycling. It is coming on its own. I can hear the little switches activating. Right now it's off. You can see now it's running nice and quiet. So looks like everything's good, no leaks. I'm going to put the lower cover back on. I put everything back on, tighten these air intake back up. I'm trying to get one can in here. I'll come back to filling this up on a hot day. It's just too cold to be charging Freon. Right now the heater, the vent, is what's making that work. Usually when you put your defrost on, defrost uses AC instead of... There you go. Water's good, running nice and quiet. Man, that's the best this thing's ever sounded. All right, that's gonna be my final follow-up on this timing chain water pump and oil pump. As you see, the pressure is almost 40 at idle. I've driven about 20 miles. It stayed on about 185 for a long time, till just up the road, and then it pegged to 110, and then it went back to about 190, and that's where it settled out at idle. So going down the freeway, that's about oil pressure. I'm really happy with the oil pressure. Temperature just kind of swings all over the place, but you know, my when you turn on the AC, that kicks on the fan sometimes, so maybe these fans aren't kicking on. Neither fan is working right now. I think they should be working. kind of weird. So maybe that's the problem there. I'm gonna have to look at the fans next. Reservoir's full, everything's back. See, that AC should be on right now, but maybe it don't have enough pressure. Maybe I got the temperature too hot. Clutch isn't cycling. Alright, let's follow up on my water pump AC. My belts were kind of squeaky. I turned the belts. I think they have maybe a memory, so I flipped them, but that didn't have nothing to do with it. They were squeaky. So I put some belt ease on all that stuff. Can't tell if it's coming from the alternator or the new clutch, but I did the AC, and the problem was it was short cycling because I need 2 pounds, which is 32 ounces. These are 12-ounce cans, so I needed 2.5 cans. I only had 2 in there. It was short cycling. So I think I got this going pretty good. High side, low side. It's still dropping. So that needs to really low side bottom out at 30. So I need to try to get a little more in there. So hopefully, seems like I've about put this whole can in here. It's probably about 70 degrees, so it's a little harder to get this in here. Well, it's just hard to get the last 2 pounds in there. At least it's not short cycling, it's staying at that 30 a lot longer. So that's running on its own accord. I'm not having to short out the fuse, letting it do its thing, suck that in there, and it's still just below 30. Yeah, that thing is actually running down there. It's impossible to see, but it is. Pressure immediately go down. I need to try to get a little more back in there. Try to get that up to 30. Shake this can up, warm it up a little bit. That's my final follow-up video on that.